Ogbole, a public affairs analyst who will help us examine the security, socio-economic, and governance angles of this crucial national policy shift. It's nice to have you join us this morning.
It's always a pleasure to be on TVC.
All right,
thank you.
Okay, let's look at it this way. Successive governments have found it difficult to implement ranching. Even from the 2014 confab, there's been a lot of panels, but yet, and even this government at a point set up the Ministry of Livestock so that they'll have a policy base to push it further. But just recently, Mr. President directed that the VP to call a NEC meeting where NEC would take some final decisions on it. Why do you think it's difficult to hit the ground with this ranching and do it with the grazing, the livestock grazing system?
Thank you very much. To provide a background, it's important to note that top on the list of Nigeria's security problems is this issue of farmers and herders, the unholy marriage that has produced offspring of blood between farmers and herders in Nigeria. It used to be a localized issue, but now it is a nationwide issue. If you notice, Boko Haram is still localized in the northeast, but this matter of the unholy romance between farmers and herders has gained a nationwide spread, with the North Central, which is the richest in terms of the basic things that cattle need, which is water and pasture. So you discover that before the turn of the century, the entrance into the new millennium, the marriage between farmers and herders had been a cordial one, in the sense that as the semi-arid north begins to get drier, owing to little amount of volume of rainfall, it is normal for them to migrate downwards towards the middle belt and then the south, where the grasses are still there, or the foliages from the trees are still there to feed their grasses, to feed their cattle, and also the water bodies that are on ground. But from the turn into the new millennium, that began to assume a bloody dimension. Why did it begin to assume a bloody dimension? It varies from place to place. For instance, the recent address or speech by the Vice President indicated that when Boko Haram started up in the northeast, they were in Sambisa forest, but they allowed the Fulanis to graze their cattle in the open land. But after some time, they had some feud between them, and then their cattle were confiscated by the Boko Haram people. So you discover that their outing, their violence up there is based on retribution, is based on reprisal, is based on a payback for a harm that was done them in terms of their cattle being removed from them. And if you also check it in the northwest area, it also bordered on that since their cattle were taken from them, and that is their major source of livelihood, they needed to now come hard on the communities. That began the issue of banditry around there, because they claimed they don't have any other source of livelihood. So the remaining cattle, they sold them, bought guns, and began to thrive on banditry. So you see that, number one, there is retribution on one side. Number two, there is pure criminality on the other side. But if you come to the north central area, you will discover that it takes another dimension, where there is no provocation, but peaceful farming communities will wake up to gunshots, will wake up to the killings and the maimings and the sacking of those communities. And then these people will in turn settle in these communities and begin to feed their cattle from the farm products and the barns of the people that they have displaced. And this has occasioned the death of thousands of people within the Nigerian state, and also people displaced in their millions. I come from Benue State in particular. And as I speak to you today, there are about 6 IDP camps in Benue State with close to 1 million people who have been displaced from their ancestral homesteads and are living in these IDP camps. Farmers who used to pride themselves in eating yam until the new yam comes out are now living at the mercy of handouts from government and also some philanthropic organizations and people. So that is the background of this crisis. In the Buhari administration, 6 policy trusts were put forth as a means of curbing this insecurity and also creating this cohesion between the Fulanis and communities in Nigeria. It began with the Brazilian Grass Initiative under Chief Ogbole, who was a Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development, then may his soul rest in peace. The Brazilian Grass Initiative was put forth by Ogbole. And then that initiative didn't work out. So it not went to the Ruga settlement, the cattle colony. The cattle colony required between 50 to 150,000 square kilometers of land to be given at various places or states within Nigeria, for the purpose of people to settle in and then to raise cattle and also to raise their children with amenities around. That didn't work out. It now moved to what we call the grazing routes and the grazing reserves and stock routes. Grazing reserves and stock routes. That sought to revive some of the grazing reserves that existed in the 60s. But why didn't that one work out? It was because, number one, in the 60s, Nigeria's population was just about 60 million people. Now we're about 200 and something million people. Land does not expand. It is static as a resource, but people grow. So the exploding population is such that the land available has been overtaken. Therefore, that matter of grazing reserve was no longer sustainable. So they now moved to the Ruga settlement. Ruga is a Fulani word for settlement of villages, where land was supposed to be apportioned in various communities in Nigeria. From Ruga settlement, it moved into the matter of the National Livestock Transformation Program, NLTP. And then from that, the last policy thrust was the National Water Resource Control Bill of 2020. All of these policies were put forth to be able to curb insecurity. But one reason why they failed was this. Number one, the activities of the herdsmen militia across Nigeria had created a bad blood, such that no matter how well-intentioned or well-meaning the policies were, wounds are on ground for loved ones that have been lost. Wounds are on ground for resources, livelihoods that have been destroyed. So each time it comes, the policy was greeted with suspicion
so it is
from the local
deficits.
people. Yeah. What are the grounds of this suspicion? Number one, why does it look as if the federal government is always in a race to pacify one ethnic group when livestock business is supposed to be an individual business? How come the federal government is always getting involved and getting involved from the angle of providing succor to the Fulani people who have always been accused by the indigenous people of invading their communities and killing their people? So, number two is, who will provide the land? How much of land? And number three, how long will that land be given to them, since they intended to build schools and to have amenities? So the communities greeted it as a move for land grab. That is what has frustrated all of these issues.
But that will be right after